something that you have had to face as well as a woman in tech, that kind of bias, or not being taken at face value for your abilities or your technical skills?
In a large part, I would say I have not faced it, possibly because of the kind of organizations I've chosen, or I've been fortunate to have very supportive bosses for me. However, right, there are unconscious bias, I would call it, which kind of stops inclusivity in decision making. And I'm not only talking about gender in this. Gender could be a latent variable that represents. For example, right, let's take a meeting, and in a meeting, who gets to speak, right? People who are butting in every second sentence get to speak more than the thinkers. And we want thinkers to make decisions, not people who can make a point or win the audience. That's not the point there, right? It's about deep thinkers. Do they get a place, right? One of the things that does work out is when you work async, when you are working on a lot of documentation, they may look like how documentation can build an inclusive culture, but it can actually, right? Because everybody gets to reflect on a document, everybody gets to say their point. You don't need to be that extroverted person to make that difference. So I'm just keeping introvert and extrovert as an example, but that also applies to gender in a lot of cases. I've seen women not speaking up in a lot of places, but still they have a point to make, and if only you give them a chance, they will speak. And those chances do not come up in large meetings for everyone to speak. So if organizations embrace that culture of async, of culture of inclusive decision making, then more than having a diversity quota or anything like that, that helps. Definitely it helps. But having an inclusive culture, or another classic things that some of the organizations do is people go on a smoke break and have a chat and then take a decision. Well, that's wrong. Like, I don't smoke, for example. You are leaving me out in that decision in that case, right? So making that awareness and figuring out, how much inclusive you want people to have that in the decision making, to me is far more important than only having diversity policy or mandating women in leadership, right? Possibly having mandating women in leadership could bring some of these things, but both are very important. That inclusivity in decision making is very important for organizations to think through, and that would break the bias more than anything. So once people see women can do it, see, unconscious bias, you can't do anything. That society has to change, and that's going to be decades from today. But seeing data and definitely the mind changes looking at data, and that data can get created when you have inclusive decision making in organizations.